Okay, I have to ask, does anyone else think Mako and Asami were so good together? Hey guys, I know it's been a while, but I promised you a review of the whole season once it was over, and I'm here to fulfill that promise. Now this season follows Korra, the new avatar after Aang from the last show, and she has already mastered water, earth, and fire. So she heads to Republic City to learn airbending from Aang's son, Tenzin. While training, she meets two brothers, Bolin and Mako. Oh, by the way, nice little tribute there. She decides to join their Probending team, which is basically sumo wrestling minus about 400 pounds. And while all this is going on, a man named Amon, who, like I said, looks like Iron Man mixed with Skeletor, is rounding up non-benders in the city to join his group known as the Equalists. And as you can tell by the name, he wants to purify the entire city of benders. Sounds a lot like this guy. Alright guys, just so you know, I cannot talk about the show without giving away a few spoilers. So if you have not seen all 12 episodes, I'm just going to say this now, the show is awesome, go watch them. You could probably watch them on Nick.com. Okay, first I'm going to mention a few things I didn't like. One, this kid. Tenzin Son was annoying a few too many times. His new method of bending wasn't funny, and it was just gross. I'm sorry. And with the exception of the last few episodes, he really didn't have a purpose. Which wouldn't have bothered me if he wasn't so annoying. Although I will give him credit. He does have a few funny lines once in a while. And he's not the worst little boy character in a show right now. That would be these two. Also, I feel the stakes aren't as high as they were in the original show. At least not in the beginning. In the original show, basically the entire fate of the entire world rested on Aang's shoulders. In this new show, the fate of bending lies on Korra's shoulders. Which is a big deal, but basically only to benders. Non-benders are basically just sitting there doing nothing. They don't care. And I would have liked to see a few more spiritual elements like in the original. But they do only have 12 episodes to work with, whereas the first show had 20 a season. Other than that, there aren't really any big flaws. Its biggest flaw is not being as good as the original show. But saying Korra is bad because it's not as good as the original show will be like saying Toy Story 2 is bad because it's not as good as Toy Story. Like the original show, the main reason this show works is because of the characters. Korra is the tough female lead, and much like how Aang acted like a real kid, she acts like a real teenager. She disobeys people and talks back, but that's how we all were as teenagers. And she does learn her lesson. Mako and Bolin are complete opposites. Mako is the tough, serious one who grew up on the streets, but he does have his lighthearted moments. Bolin is just the lighthearted comic relief who everyone just laughs at, but he does know when to be serious so he doesn't get on your nerves. Tenzin is the wise dude who could basically kill you if he wanted to. Chi Beifong is just a badass, but my favorite character, believe it or not, is Asami. I like her because they could have made her a spoiled brat, and they didn't. She lived a life of luxury, and she could have very easily just betrayed the group. But she didn't. She's tough, she's smart, and, best of all, she's loyal. My biggest fear was that they were going to make her betray the group. I just kept saying, no, please Asami, please don't do this. Please don't go the cliche route and then you learn your lesson at the end. That's what a bunch of shows do. Please, please. And then she didn't do it. And I was, oh, thank God. And it's like she has reason to hate benders. Her mother was killed by benders. But unlike her father, she isn't blinded by hatred and revenge. Now the villains. First there's Amon, the Equalist leader. Now you're probably thinking, how the hell can a non-bender be a threat to the Avatar? Well, how about being able to take your bending away? Permanently. Something only the Avatar should be able to do. Yeah. And when you learn his backstory, it's actually pretty tragic. And that's what makes a good villain, is good motivation. And then there's Tarlac. He isn't the villain through much of the season, but damn was he a bastard. You notice how in these two Avatar shows, the more memorable villains weren't the main ones? The main villain of the last show was the Fire Lord. But in the first season, Zhao was more memorable, and the last two seasons, it was Azula, who has gone down as one of the biggest bitches in animation. The last scene of this season with Tarlac was so mind-blowingly good. Now that doesn't mean the characters are the only good part. The storyline is fantastic. It never gets too confusing, but there are several twists and turns, and sometimes just jaw-dropping twists. And talk about fanfare. I mean, having Katara still be alive made me squeal like a little girl. But when the general at the end of episode 10 talks and Zuko's voice comes out, I was just sitting there in shock. And then you hear his name is General Iroh. Pew! Minds. I can't even think of a good term for that. And if you don't like the characters or the plot, there's plenty of eye candy. The action is very well done. The animation is fantastic. And thank God for the 2D animation. I mean, I love CG animation, especially when it's done well. Toy Story is my favorite animated movie, but sometimes it's nice to see some classic 2D animation. The voice acting all around is good, and it has a sense of humor to boot. I don't want to give away anymore. I've already spoiled enough as it is, but believe me, there are more twists in the show that I will not spoil for you at all. Is this show as good as Avatar: The Last Airbender? Well, yes and no. In terms of technicals like action, animation, writing, directing, humor, it's pretty much just as good. But I have such love for the first show that I knew I wasn't going to love this show as much. If you love the original show as much as I do, and I'm going into this one expecting it to be just as good or better, you're going to be very, very disappointed. But it's still a great show and one of the best animated shows on right now. If you didn't like Avatar, first of all, what's wrong with you? Second of all, you're probably not going to like this show. But if you did, as long as you don't set your expectations ridiculously high, you'll probably love this show. I went in just hoping for a really good animated TV show. And I got that. I can't wait for season 2. Although with the way it ended, I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do for it. So yeah, I'll give this show a 10 out of 10. It's a lot easier to give shows 10s out of 10s when they're done very well. So that was my full review of Avatar: The Legend of Korra Season 1. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button and I will see you next time. Bye.